Welcome back, it's me Lou, and I'm here for another action figure review and unboxing, and today we are looking at this. It's going to be a double feature. We are showcasing Mattel's Masters of the WWE Universe. And on our left, we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the heroic master of dragons, and on the right we have Rowdy Roddy Piper. So if you've been watching my videos in the past, you know that besides being an action figure collector, I'm also a big fan of pro wrestling. And these two action figures really hit the sweet spot because these were two very popular wrestlers during the 80s. And I was introduced to pro wrestling when I was about maybe 8 years old. So these are kind of like two of my childhood heroes. Rick Steamboat especially. He was one of my favorite wrestlers as a kid. Every Saturday morning after Saturday morning cartoons, I'd tune in and watch WWF Superstars, and I always loved seeing Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Rowdy Piper was one of those dudes that he was one of those villains that you'd love to hate, and as a kid I always hated Roddy Piper because he was like the perfect heel bad guy, but I grew to appreciate him, especially much later when he was in WCW. So yeah, let's take a look at these action figures. So first off, we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and this is a Masters of the WWE Universe. This is highly articulated for power posing. Now, as I've stated in the past, I'm not very fond of this package design. The color scheme doesn't really do anything for me. It always looks so muted on the shelves. WWE and WWF, you know, it's very loud, it's very smash mouth, and some of these colors just kind of seem to, I don't know, pastel-y for me. But I do like the logo. I love how it's kind of a throwback to the old WWF chrome colored logo, so that's really cool. The action figure here, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, it's framed perfectly in its bubble. You see, him in his cool little armor pieces. On the back, we have some of that beautiful artwork, and here's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and here's that Snake Mountain inspired wrestling ring playset, and I believe that was this line I think is a Walmart exclusive to begin with. I've never seen this wrestling ring at any of my Walmarts. I'm not sure if it was an online exclusive, but I haven't seen it. It's essentially a repaint of the original ring, but it comes with additional accessories like this ramp and these snakes that plug into the top of the ring posts. So it says here, armed with the devastating Dragon Blaster, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat fires up the crowd and brings the heat inside the ring. So if you see here, here's the play feature. You could detach the dragon armor for creature combat. And then shows how articulated he is. And here's some of his additional wave mates. There's Becky Lynch, the man of WWE Eternia. I've reviewed her. There's Macho Man Randy Savage, the HW4 Life. I've also reviewed that. And then we have down here the two figures we're showcasing today, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Rowdy Roddy Piper. So let's free this guy from his plastic prison. This one does not want to open as easy as the other ones. There we go. We have his cool dragon accessory. There's that. The comic book. And we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat still in this plastic tray. First impressions. It's cool, very colorful, which I like. The green really kind of shouts out at me. Yeah, it's his likeness. I want to say it's okay. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat kind of has one of those faces, which I think, in my opinion, is hard to capture a perfect likeness. But I think this does a pretty good job. When I first saw this action figure on the shelves at the store, part of me was kind of thinking, this would be a great custom for a Liu Kang action figure. Liu Kang being from Mortal Kombat. But if you're into this style of action figure, you'll remember that Funko made us a Liu Kang Mortal Kombat figure in this kind of figure style and with these proportions and in this scale. Okay. Alright, first, let's take a look at this little comic book. As I mentioned before, I love these things. It's a cool callback to the comics that were included with the vintage, original 80s Masters of the Universe figures. And we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. There's Macho Man in the back and Piper. Now, these aren't like the Masters of the Universe comics. They're much shorter. I mean, it's essentially just like a fold-out pamphlet, kind of. And it says here, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the heroic master of dragons. The great battle has begun. A darkness threatens to consume WWE Eternia as the faction of evil superstars rise from the parts unknown to control the balance of power. But the heroic superstars accept the challenge to defend the planet and determine who are the masters of the WWE Universe. And it's cool. They give you his stats. He stands at 5 foot 10 inches, 235 pounds, and his superstar powers are mental control over dragons, and he breathes fire. And his foreign object is the Dragon Blaster. So here he is taking on Macho Man, and it shows him using his Dragon Blaster. And on the back, a recap of the figures that come out in this wave. So yeah, this is a fun little bonus. Accessory-wise, it comes with this dragon. It's weird. I don't understand why it has a lock on its leash. Or on its collar. It's kind of made of like, it's almost like a transparent plastic orange, but it's so dense that it's not really see-through. And I don't know if this head rotates. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so the head rotates. It's kind of a cool accessory. It's odd. It's odd because they call it a Dragon Blaster, but they don't necessarily indicate if this is like a pet dragon or something. And if you can see by the way it's sculpted, it's outside of the head. It's not really articulated, and the way it's posed is that you can't necessarily put it completely flat down on the ground because his forward arms are kind of like bent and positioned in this. I don't know, like it's hanging over. And I don't know if this plugs into anything. So, yeah, give me a second. Where's the instructions? Let me see something. So I'm looking at this right now, and there's a socket on the back. But there's no real plug anywhere for this. So I think... I don't really know how this thing attaches to his back, which is weird. Yeah, so if you have this action figure and you kind of know how to like adjust this or like how to actually attach this onto Steamboat's back, post it below because I don't really understand how this is supposed to plug in and work. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that gets in the way. Like his hair is pretty long, and there's this armor, and there's all these teeth up along the ridge of the armor, and this socket here, I don't think it plugs into anything. I think the socket's there to accommodate the shoulder strap here, but it doesn't want to like do anything. Yeah, so I don't understand what the purpose of this is. It doesn't want to plug into anything. Yeah, this seems like a weird afterthought. Yeah, I don't really... Yeah, so this is weird. I don't really... It's cool that they give you this dragon accessory, but It's almost non-functional because it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. It doesn't really want to snap in. It doesn't plug into anything. Unless I'm missing something here. And I don't understand why it has this locket on its neck. So, but let's move beyond that. I think I'm a little fixated too much on this dragon accessory, but let's take a look at the figure itself. Move that aside. So we have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So the armor on his chest, it kind of seems kind of reminiscent of Merman's body armor. The color of the green is going to look different on my camera. It looks much different in person. It's removable. There's the you can unsnap it here, and then if the hair gets in the way, you can just pull the head off. The scales on his tights, they're just painted on. They're not sculpted in. He has these forearm bracers. Those aren't removable. They're part of the forearm sculpt. In terms of articulation, it's what you come to expect from the Origins figures. Rotation on a ball joint. Arms rotate up. They go out. Bicep. Swivel and bend. Twist at the waist. And just like all the other Masters of the Universe and WWE figures, these are, you could disassemble these. But this is a really great figure. I think the aesthetic is really well done. It captures that, you know, the whole dragon theme that surrounds Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. The colors, they're a good choice. They're very indicative of some of the gear he wore back in the 80s, especially with the red. You know, I think for me growing up, I mostly remember Steamboat wearing, I think at first when I was first introduced to him, he was wearing black long pants, and then at a certain point he started wearing the red. But I think shortly before I was introduced to him, I think in the early 80s, he was more so just wearing the black trunks. It wasn't until he was in WWF when he really like adopted the dragon theme and kind of, you know, wore more decorative ring gear and entrance gear. Yeah, it's a great figure. It's really colorful. It's bright. I kind of just... The dragon accessory, I was kind of excited about it, but it's kind of disappointing in the fact that it doesn't really attach to the armor in any sort of way. It doesn't plug into anything, and I don't know, kind of... I don't want to say it. I don't know. If I had to rate this figure numerically, the figure, if this just came with the figure itself, you know, I'd say this is about a 7.5 to a low 8. But man, if this thing worked, I'd give this thing like an 8.5. But it doesn't want to plug in. You know, if I want to display this on my shelf with this thing on here, I don't think it'd be possible anyways, because I think it'd add too much like weight to his back, and I don't think he'd be able to stand properly. So yeah, I don't know what this is, how you're supposed to actually like incorporate this into your action figure. You know, the tail doesn't bend. You know, that'd make more sense if it was a bendy tail and it wrapped around his waist. That'd make sense, but this doesn't do anything. Alright, let's move on to Piper. So we have Rowdy Roddy Piper, the evil hot rod. Piper's like, he's like Steamboat too. I think he's one, in terms of like capturing his actual likeness, I think it's really hard to, you know, capture his face in action figure form. Now, on the back we have some beautiful painted artwork. Just when they think they have all the answers, Hot Rod changes the question. Real superstars don't just wear kilts, they also wear battle armor. And here is his play feature. You switch to emblems and we can reveal the battle damage, twist into powerful battle positions. And then here's the rest of this. He comes from the same wave as Steamboat. And then the artwork, see Macho Man and Jake the Snake. Okay, let's take this guy out. Here's his little comic book, and it's cool. It's him and Mr. T. If you grew up during the 80s, or if you were a fan of pro wrestling, you'll remember their rivalry. And I believe it was also it was like a real life thing too. I think from what I remember, Piper wasn't. I guess he was very protective of the wrestling business, and you know, he saw Mr. T as an outsider. So I think in real life, Piper had some heat with Mr. T. And let's read his bio here. Rowdy Roddy Piper, the evil hot rod. The great battle has begun. A darkness threatens to consume WWE Eternia. It is the faction of evil superstars rise from parts unknown to control the balance of power. But the heroic superstars accept the challenge to defend the planet and determine who are the masters of the WWE Universe. So on his stats, Piper stands at 6 feet 2 inches. He's 230 pounds. His superstar powers are supersonic speech, chaos magic caster, and foreign objects loudmouth battle axe. Alright. And here he is taking on Mr. T. Alright, first impressions of the figure while it's still on its plastic tray. It looks cool. I think out of most of the WWE figures I've gotten for this like Masters of the Universe kind of style wave, or I mean this line in general, I think he looks kind of like the most generic, which isn't a bad thing. As a customizer, I think this would be a great figure just to buy multiples of, because the face, even though it's supposed to be Roddy Piper, the likeness I don't think is completely there. You can easily use his head as a generic like He-Man character. This is also one of the figures that, like, outside of He-Man, the base body isn't covered up by a lot of like weird bits or like fancy, you know, paint designs that kind of give it away as a wrestler. Alright, I just decapitated Roddy Piper. His head just kind of fell off. Alright, truth be told, this is actually, I actually have this figure already, and I have one loose. But I got this, you know, because I wanted an extra one to make customs, with, and I had this issue with my other figure also. For some reason, this head doesn't want to stay plugged in. It plugs in a little bit, but it's not as snug as some of the other action figures. And here's the accessories he comes with. They don't make these easy to remove. Alright, so he has his battle axe. He has his battle axe, and he has 2 additional armor pieces. And they kind of each denote a little bit more battle damage. Like this one, it has 2 scratches, whereas this bottom one, it kind of has the hell kicked out of it. So let's take a look at Hot Rod. Yeah, so his likeness, I think Roddy Piper's likeness is always kind of hard to capture. Also, if you're wondering, my fingers are super dirty because I've been making a custom and I've been painting a lot, and I can't. This is like a mixture of super glue and paint and ink, and it's not coming off my action figures. So I don't want you to think that I'm like a filthy, like I never wash my hands. I wash my hands a lot, but I can't get this paint off. All right, enough about that. All right, so we're looking at Hot Rod here. It's like I said, this is a very almost generic base body. And I'll tell you up front, I hate this body armor gimmick. It's stupid. I understand what they're trying to recreate. They're trying to recreate the battle armored He-Man, where like for that figure, it's actually the torso is actually one piece, and then when you hit his chest, the body armor rolls over to reveal battle damage. Whereas this, you actually have to take it apart to reveal battle damage, and this thing's stubborn. It doesn't want to come off easily. Let me see if I can do it. Yeah, the tabs are snug, and the plastic's almost kind of like, it's the kind of plastic that it's not very pliable. It's almost rigid, so I kind of always wonder that, or I always worry that I'm actually going to break it. So I'm actually going to leave this alone. Let me grab a figure. I think I have them loose somewhere. Let me grab them. Yeah, so here's Roddy Piper without the body armor. So as I was stating earlier, he's a very generic looking kind of, I mean, no disrespect to Hot Rod, you know, rest in peace, but this action figure, it's very generic looking. As you can see, it has the same play features as the Origins. And this one's head, it doesn't want to stay plugged in. The socket it's not as snug as it should be. But if you want to make more wrestlers, you know, just like for, you know, just to kind of like fill this line out, or if you want to make customs, you know, besides the He-Man action figure, the Hot Rod figure, the Roddy Piper one, it's a great this plain base body. You know, with the exception of the He-Man style boots, this almost looks like a 80s Remco wrestling action figure. And when I look at this, part of me is kind of like, I really wish they gave us a Ric Flair. You know, Ric Flair from the 80s in the Masters of the Universe style would be awesome. You know, you could relive his feud or his tag team partnership with Hot Rod. You can have Ric Flair wrestling Steamboat like they did back in the day. So yeah, I mean, this figure, it's very, I don't want to say it's basic, because it does come with this body armor, but I love that it, depending on your, you know, what you prefer. Some of you might have wanted a more detailed action figure, but this is a great basic body. You know, use this for customs, for part swapping, because it's so generic looking. For Hot Rod though, there's part of me that kind of wishes that instead of giving us this body armor, I would have loved to have seen a Hot Rod figure with his leather jacket. I'm not sure how they'd incorporate that into this wave of like He-Man toys, but I don't know. So yeah, so the deal with this body armor is that you swap. I think I might have this loose also. Let me check. Alright, so this is a pain in the butt to remove, this body armor deal. But if you are successful and you can remove it, it's actually two pieces. And this is where it's such a hassle too. This piece here is supposed to swap out, and it's really frustrating to try to remove. And then you can swap it in with one of these battle damaged ones. But it's like I said, this thing's like it's a nuisance. I can't stand it. It doesn't really do. I don't know. It's just, I hate this. It works for some action figures. Like I think back in the day, like Fisto from the Masters of the Universe had like body armor like this where you'd snap on and stuff. But I don't know, for that felt appropriate, but this one, I get that they're recreating Hot Rod's merch shirt, but I don't know, this doesn't flow for me that well. But this is a great action figure. In all honesty, despite, you know, I know I've been saying this is kind of like a generic looking figure, but I kind of like that because, you know, I want to get a bunch of these just to make more customs because I like the head. I love the very base body. And, you know, he just looks like an older action figure from the 80s, especially the Remco ones. He has the knee pads, and if he just had, like, normal boots like Steamboat here, You know, if you swap these boots onto here, you have a very basic looking wrestler. And actually, if you gave Steamboat, if you took these red boots, put them on the Piper, and then swapped out the head with the Hogan, you'd have like a red, white, and blue Hogan. So there's a thought for you there too. Okay, so let's talk numbers. How do I rate these figures numerically? As I stated before, this dude here, I'd probably say low 7.5 till maybe like a low 8. I'd rate him higher if the dragon feature actually worked better. But it's cool that he comes with this hefty giant piece of plastic. I just, you know, kind of wish that the accessory did what it's supposed to do. It doesn't really attach to his back at all. And the thing's kind of pre-posed, so he can't lay it flat. So it's, I don't know. Piper, I'd rate about the same. I think it's 7.5 to maybe a low 8. As much as I hate this, the functionality of this chest piece, you know, I think Piper's kind of a must. He's a very iconic wrestler, and I don't know, I can't imagine anyone just passing up on having a Hot Rod figure in their collection. So, my name is Lou, and I'd like to thank you once again for stopping by and checking out my video. These figures are awesome. I love the WWE figures, especially them being incorporated into the Masters of the Universe. Their aesthetic is cool. They give you a lot of cool accessories and play features. I don't know, it's just an incredible line of toys. So, feel free to drop by anytime, and I will talk to you later. Take care.